everyone, and welcome to Ghouls Night In, the spooky chat show with your best ghoul friends. I'm Penny Snark.
And I'm Midge Munster.
It's our 40th episode, Midge.
Holy hell.
How crazy is that?
How did we get here? I don't
Oh,
remember.
I know. We just keep sitting down in front of these microphones, and the numbers keep ticking up, up, and up.
And for some a wonderful reason, y'all want to hear whatever we have to say.
Thank you all so much for tuning in. I have a confession to make to you, Midge.
Uh-oh.
I secretly want to be a cool goth girl who drives a hearse.
Oh, same. Hard same.
But tragically, I drive a Ford Fusion, so I'm going to tell you about hearses today.
That's almost the same thing.
Right? It's pretty much the same.
You're not as far off as I am in my yellow bug, I'll tell you that.
Very true. Oh man, yep. We're doing another history episode,
Or a herstory episode, am I right?
Oh yes, ma'am. Love it. That might be we may have already gotten the title of this episode.
There she blows, yeah.
Oh my goodness. So as many of you know, a hearse is a vehicle that transports a body to a funeral. These can also be known as funeral coaches or funeral cars. Would you like to know the Latin in this one, Midge?
More than anything.
So hearse comes from the Latin herpex through the French hearse, which doesn't have an A in it. And both of these mean harrow, which is a farming tool that you use to break up soil. So when I heard this, I was like, oh, this is related to like digging graves.
Burial, right.
But it's not.
Oh, great.
So a harrow is like it does I honestly did read the Wikipedia article about this and still don't really know
what it does.
So it looks like modern ones have discs, but older ones, it's like a rolling spiky thing that breaks up the soil.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And apparently the earliest hand-drawn hearses had like a framework to hold the coffin in place, and it would have spikes for you to put candles on. And people were like, man, that reminds me of a harrow. We'll call this a hearse, I guess.
Not that it has like exactly the same, like, yeah, okay. Not the burial aspect and the ground.
Nope. That's just a happy coincidence, yeah, apparently.
Perfect.
So it was in the 17th century that horse-drawn hearses really began to take over from just like a hand-drawn bier for the average person. There are earlier historic examples of royalty, being taken to their grave by horse, etc. But this is when people like your average Joe would maybe get this sweet carriage to drag them to their eternal rest.
I love funeral carriages.
Yes. So these usually had windows on the side. You could scope out that coffin in there. And obviously, for any of our friends who are fans of Victorian funeral stuff, you are familiar with some really ornate horse-drawn hearses. They've got the velvet curtains. You've got your angels and doves being carved on there. Some of them even had like custom carvings. It was really, as with many Victorian things, kind of a sky's the limit of how like fabulously macabre you could make this thing.
For any of our artist friends out there, I have a very particular request, and that's that I would love for you to draw and design Penny and I's funeral hearses with custom carvings that represent each of us accurately, please and thank you.
Fabulous. Yes. One thing that I always remember from seeing around the internet, you may remember, is this famous newspaper cartoon from 1871 reporting that a lady in Quebec rented a horse-drawn hearse to just drive her around the city while she chilled back there smoking cigarettes and looking out the window. A true icon. A quote from the paper What will women do next to distinguish themselves, we wonder? A female in Quebec the other day perpetrated a ghastly joke, mocking death in his own domain by lying down in a hearse and smoking a pipe as the funeral chariot was driven through the street. Um, so
And
something,
that is
mm,
feminism.
yes. So I found out while I was googling about horse-drawn hearses, that there are definitely still places that do that today.
in
Um,
in America or in that?
yes, yes.
Oh,
Like
because
there
I
are
could see the
funeral homes.
Europeans.
Nope, there are funeral homes in America that are like, would you like the stately extravagance of this horse-drawn hearse? And I am wondering, Midge, do you think that any of them would rent me a hearse for just a joyride,
To smoke
so I
cigarettes.
could smoke cigarettes in the back and have a horse-drawn hearse guide me through the streets of Milwaukee?
I also like I know that you and I are not great examples of like moderate living.
An
But
understatement if there ever was one.
but who's saying no to that? If you're getting buried somewhere or having the funeral experience, I mean, granted, I wouldn't be there to advocate for myself if I am in this
Yeah,
case
true.
dead. But anyone who knows me, if someone was like, "Do you want her drawn through the streets by horses in a very ornate glass box?" Anyone who says no to that is no friend of mine.
Right? You got put that in your death plan, man. You're like,
Done, done. I'm actually
I got
writing it down as we
I gotta
speak.
have this horse-drawn funeral coach. Yeah, I was surprised that I saw like several because I was like, oh, weird, there's a place that still does this. And as I was scrolling, like it would be just like the funeral home website that's just like, here's our, motorized, here's our regular hearse, blah 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 blah. Also, you could get this sweet carriage. And I was like, I'm going for the carriage, man.
Yeah. That's amazing.
It's very cool. But the motorized hearse was first introduced in the early 1900s. And the first hearse with a internal combustion engine in the U.S. Appeared in 1909. The undertaker commissioned a vehicle to be built from the body of a horse-drawn hearse and the chassis of a bus.
Oh.
Um, and apparently, the very earliest motorized hearses were electric. But then they, suited them up for gasoline. And by 1920s, it was the norm to have a motorized hearse.
Amazing. I mean,
So
a downgrade, if you ask me, but
I
sure.
know, right? One thing that I found delightfully wild is that up through one source I found said the 1970s, it was common for a hearse to also be used as an ambulance.
Oh, I knew about this for some reason, but I don't remember why. But yes.
Yeah. Yeah, just because it was like, well, we've got this big old car that's the perfect size to move a human body around
Like
in, and we
right,
don't
like
need it all the time. So,
yeah, y'all can lay down back there. It's
right, you can
it's the right, yeah.
just chill out. But in the early days, most of the motorized hearses still looked like, kind of a boxy, like horse-drawn coach just on a car. Um, and what most people probably picture when you envision a hearse is known as a Landau style hearse. And that was invented in 1925 by Sayers and Scoville, now known as S&S Coach Company. They are still in business and still producing hearses today.
I'm kind of surprised it was that early. I would have assumed that it
Mm-hmm.
happened like in the 40s or 50s.
No, yeah, they got right in there.
Wow.
And the so if you picture a hearse like on the back part, there's usually that kind of like silver, like swoopy, like S
Is it the
thing.
SNS?
It's the SNS, and that was actually hearses were apparently originally semi-convertible. And so like you would remove the roof on there, and that was
Oh.
like the handle. It's called a Landau bar to
Oh.
lift that off. And they can't do that nowadays, but it is still there for hashtag aesthetic.
Was that like a practicality thing to like load a casket into it?
Yeah, I think so. I think for like moving things in and out and stuff. I
Mm.
did I could have gone I could have gone down a whole other sidetrack about roller bars and coffin pins. And needless to say, there are things in the backs of hearses that hold the casket where it is. So
Yeah, that is apparently why it's called a hearse.
Yes.
it's,
Um,
it's it's all about the spikes.
right. So this is the thing that like really kind of tripped me out and made me be like, we should do an episode on this.
Okay.
Did you know that there is not a car company that makes hearses?
Where do they come from?
There is no like factory production line of hearses because all hearses are made by third party companies that take the bodies of a car and convert it into a hearse.
Weird.
Right?
This seems like
So
a conspiracy theory, and I'm in.
right? I know. I was like that can't be true, but it is true.
I like the
Um
idea of them just like popping up, like like
right.
spawning, like
Ugh.
wherever there's a lot of like death happening, they're just like surprise.
Right. It's like, oh, if you leave 3 coffin pins in a triangle in a empty parking space, a hearse will
You
appear
can
on the next
summon
full
one.
moon. Yeah, but you actually to make a hearse, you have to cut the car in half, and then like install like an extended like middle part, reconnect all of the fuel lines, and then you install like your rollers and pins and stuff for the casket.
Well, this is actually kind of connecting some dots for me, though, because I feel like hearses and kind of that culture around, macabre culture
Mhm.
is very rooted. Like, there's a lot of it in the like hot rod community.
Yeah,
Like, the rockabilly, gothabilly community is very tied to hot rods. And I mean, that makes a hearse a hot rod, more or less,
yeah, it
like having
does.
to chop shop it. So yeah, I mean, that's connecting some spots in my brain of like, oh yeah, huh.
Right. Yeah. Most modern day hearses in the US are built on Cadillacs or Lincolns.
Mhm.
But there are also places that are doing like on a Mercedes. I saw an article that like kind of like was being like, oh, although it's still luxury cars are the car of choice for the hearse even, and I'm like, oh, all right, like I guess you might as well be a little
There,
bit luxe if you're gonna forego the horse-drawn carriage.
there's some elitism in the hearse community.
Yeah, but there have also been custom hearses made from Volkswagens. There was a Tesla hearse, and probably one of the most recent famous hearses, Prince Philip, was transported in a hearse made from a Land Rover, which he actually designed himself.
Ooh, yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. The first thing that came into my head when you said you can chop the front of a car, I was like, can I have a hearse made out of my bug?
that that was an additional question. I was going to say, if you could have a custom hearse made out of a car, what would you do your bug?
Yeah, either a bug or a VW bus.
Mm.
Or if we were getting really spicy, like a 57 Chevy Bel Air.
Oh yeah. Oh, that would be so cool. Oh, like a pink one?
Yeah, I want a teal one eventually in
Oh,
my life.
I would have a pink Thunderbird hearse.
Ooh, yeah. I am friends with a person in Kansas City that owns a pink Thunderbird. So maybe when you're in town sometime I can hook you up.
Yes, please. So good. So one wild and wacky hearse that I wanted to share was not like a DIY, but an official Airstream funeral coach.
What? That's cool.
Yes, so this was introduced in 1981. It could transport the casket, 14 family members, and up to 20 baskets of flowers. And the idea was like you could have the whole family travel from the funeral home to the cemetery together, and not have to separate or add the extra traffic. And because it looked just like an Airstream bus, it was less noticeable than like a standard hearse.
Mm.
And I was looking at the pictures. I will definitely put pictures of this on the Instagram, to check that out. The casket did go into a side compartment, so you weren't like sitting there like
You're not
looking
s-
at it, because that's what I pictured. Uh,
You know what, though? I mean, how is that different from a glass case with a coffin rolling down the street? You
No,
know,
no, I
like,
mean, yeah, I just kind of assumed that, like, the coffin would be in the center and you
yeah,
would be
why
sitting
wouldn't it?
around it,
I love
but
that.
it actually went into the side,
Boo.
but right, boo, so there were only ever 32 of these sold in the 10 years, that it was available, but it apparently got good reviews, from the people who did use it, and some of the added features that funeral home owners chose included a radio, a television, a microwave, and a lavatory.
I just like, where are they going? Where are they taking the body? How far do you need to go
Right?
that
I
you
know.
need a TV and a bathroom in there?
I mean, I guess like if you have like a grandma or someone who like needs to use the bathroom more frequently, I don't know. I don't know how far away your cemetery is. I like the microwave, like maybe you're going to make popcorn.
I guess you're gonna have a little snack. I guess I could see maybe, like, if someone, had a family member, but would you do that? I don't know, they, like, passed in another state if you're, like, bringing
Mm,
them home for
maybe.
burial?
Or I mean, I guess like the coach would be at the cemetery. So like maybe like it's kind of like it's
Just really having trouble figuring out why that was decided in the first place.
yeah. So this was like part of Airstream was like having troubles, and so they tried to introduce this whole suite of like new things where they introduced like, oh, this is a bus that you could use as an office and you could work on. And one of them was a funeral one. So it was not wildly popular, but I think that it's pretty cool.
I Wow. I'm sorry, I just Googled it. That's incredible. It's got
Yeah,
the
right?
picture with the
It's
little
cute.
casket sticking out the side and all the flowers.
Like, this would
Wow.
I would say, like, obviously, like, it was for funeral homes to have and use, but I do like the idea. I feel like there's an indie movie there of, like, a cross-country road trip
Well,
to
it's Little
bury
Miss
grandma.
Sunshine.
Yeah,
It's
but
literally Little Miss Sunshine, but with the Airstream instead of the VW
yeah,
bus.
be pretty cool. I would be into that.
Also,
Uh
this, first article that popped up said Airstream funeral coach escape room.
I would do that,
I have so
definitely.
many questions. Anyway, as you were.
Yes, but yeah, as we kind of talked about at the start, nowadays people own and drive horses as either their regular or they're just a specialty vehicle. Like you said, with kind of like the hot rod and custom car culture, there are hearse clubs for people who drive hearses. I do not personally know anyone who drives a hearse. I've seen a lot of people on,
Mhm.
the internet. But I think they're super cool. And if anyone out there has a hearse, please let me ride in it.
Yes, and smoke cigarettes in the back.
Yes. I won't actually smoke in your hearse. I'll just like pose with one.
Just vape.
Yeah.
Do you
uh,
know that you might this I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead. Was it also because I know again, we talked about this in the Munsters episode, up until like the late 60s or something, it was illegal to own a casket outside of a funeral setting. Uh, do you know if like there was a thing where you couldn't own a hearse unless you worked for a funeral company?
Ooh, I don't actually know. I didn't see that in
Okay.
my reading, but I did see that they were kind of like, up until like the 60s, it was like considered like, super macabre, obviously. I mean, it's still considered super macabre
Right.
to drive a hearse, but like there have been like, a few like celebrities who have had hearses, or they also mentioned obviously the another cool custom, the Jaguar hearse in Harold and Maude,
Mm-hmm.
as something that has inspired people to want a hearse for themselves. Hearses are also really expensive,
They
um,
sure are.
so that is somewhat of a barrier to entry. One other I'm so all of my history is done. One wacky hearse thing that I read about is so at Walt Disney World, there is like a funeral coach, a horse-drawn one, parked in front
Mhm.
of the haunted mansion.
Right.
And apparently, there's a persistent rumor that it's the funeral coach that Brigham Young. was funeraled in,
Not
and
funeral as a
which
verb.
right, which one? So Brigham Young, the founder of Mormonism, um, that is obviously not true. I love
No.
the site that I read was like, there actually wasn't a curse at Brigham Young's funeral. And I was like, well, thank you for that additional fact, but also obviously not. But that is apparently something that has persisted as a rumor, which is a very silly thing.
It's like
So,
that's the ultimate meme, honestly. Like, oh, that's funny.
yeah. So, very silly, very funny. But yeah, I was.
They need the Airstream trailer for his 55 wives to sit with his casket.
There
Sorry,
you go.
it was right there. Continue.
Yeah, that is my history of the hearse. I don't even remember what in I think I just like was watching a TikTok of a girl
I
who drives a hearse,
literally
and I was like, sweet, I should Google hearse. And then I was like, wait, you can't buy, like, they don't make hearse, like Ford doesn't make hearses? How is that even possible? And then I went down this whole rabbit hole, and here we are now.
well, I was gonna ask, but if it was a girl driving one, it's not. But I there was a TikTok. I want to say it was either Dire Ghoul House or Becky. What's her name? Becky and Galentine, or one of the other spooky gals, that just did a TikTok showing some vintage, or original, like the really ornate horse drawn
Mm.
hearses, and it was like, pick your hearse. uh, and I saw that one like maybe last week, and I just assume that if it comes up on my FYP, it's probably on yours too. So
Yeah,
I thought maybe that was what had stemmed this.
no, it was like answering questions about my hearse of just a cute goth chick who
Oh,
drives a hearse,
incredible.
and I was like, man, why couldn't that be? Why not me?
When will it be my
When
turn?
will it be my turn?
That's awesome. I Well, if you've saved that or come across it again, send it to me because I have not seen that one, surprisingly. And um yeah, this is also a weird. I'm glad we share this want in life, because I have many times like Facebook Marketplace hearse question mark like.
I know. I mean, now these days, if I can have my boomer moment with the gas prices the way they are, what are you gonna do with a hearse? Because hearses don't get very good mileage, so that would
Well,
be a struggle.
see,
Maybe
Beetle Volkswagen hearse, problem solved.
right, or that Tesla hearse.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to tell Taylor about that. He's gonna request that I get him a Tesla hearse.
There you go.
I have to share one quick final thing here,
Please
that I
do.
I did give a goog to Beetle Volkswagen Hearse to see if it existed. They do. They're very cute. They're made out of like the old like 67 Beetles,
Hmm.
but very specifically, and Penny, I will send this to you to share on your Instagram post for this episode. Someone was showing, like, at a car show, a very nice black vintage Beetle
Mhm.
with a pop-up camper hearse attached to the back. It's this very cute little camper with little windows with curtains.
Oh my goodness, I love that.
So you can tote the family along behind you.
See, Airstream knows what's up. You got to bring the family with the casket.
Oh, this is very weird but very cute. What a weirdly delightful episode for being about a thing that carries dead bodies.
Right. No, but it's a cool thing. Yes, please do let us know if you or a friend of yours drives a hearse. No particular reason, just send me their name and address.
And if they're single and want to be married to one of us also.
Hmm. Well, thank you all so much for joining us for our 40th episode of
Woohoo!
Ghouls Night In. We've been having so much fun recording these for you. If you enjoy the show, please do subscribe. And if you can leave us a review, it helps us out so much and it helps new people find the show. And we even read reviews right here on the show. So you could hear your wonderful words in our dulcet tones. Um, I don't appreciate that snort, Miss Munster.
Oh, that one got me. That was good.
And if you would like to see some of the fabulous hearses and funeral coaches we've talked about today, they will be up on our Instagram at Ghouls Night in Pod. And if you would like to find me, you can find me across all platforms at Penny Snark.
And to see this old face, you can find me at Midge Monster.
And until next time,
Goodbye.
goodbye.